Thursday night, time for a Las Vegas Triathlon Club member spotlight. And tonight we've got a new member, first year member, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. This is so great. And we're going to talk with Skylar Brown tonight, who joined the club this year. And this is going to be a lot of fun to get to know him and how he got into triathlon and where he's going with the sport. And so I know Skylar only a little bit. And so I love these conversations because I get to learn a lot more about each member that we have. And so, Skylar, I'm looking forward to hearing more about your story and your journey. So before I get going too far, though, I'm going to go ahead and hand the microphone over to our co-host, Bob Gamble. Hey, Bob, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. I appreciate it, John. How are you doing?
Good, good.
And Skylar, thanks so much for being on tonight. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh,
Excited
it's
to be
going to
here.
be fun. And I just for everybody out there, Skylar just got started in triathlon. Just joined the club this year. Did 3 of the 4 club events. Missed one because his son was in a swim meet down,
Yeah,
in
one out of
Arizona.
town this time. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So how many kids you got, Skylar?
I got 2 boys, 9 and 12. Both swim. My oldest one just swims, and then my youngest one does soccer and swims.
Awesome.
Okay. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And you can tell that they're going to be good swimmers because one of the things is seeing you coming out of the water. Your picture coming out of the water is better than most people ever get, and you're brand new at this. So as I said before, you got to send that picture into the whoever made the wetsuit and say, here, you can use this for
Yeah, right. Thank you.
modeling. But so to get started, Skylar's from Idaho. In instrumentation and control, a project manager and a business unit manager in Vegas for instrumentation and controls. Been in Vegas since
2012 or
2012,
2002
yeah.
originally, and then 2013 for my second go around.
Right. And so just to get started, if you would please tell us and everybody what your background is in athletically, because you really do look like a natural athlete. Like I said, that's an interesting picture of you coming out of the water for the first time. So what was your background?
Swimming, 100%. I tried other sports like most kids do when they're 5, 6, 7 years old. I tried soccer. I tried t-ball. I was terrible at every single one of them. And so we had a family friend that started the swim team in Pocatello when I was 8. They told me to go and join that. And it just kind of took off from there. It was what clicked for me as far as what I was supposed to do athletically.
Oh, that's awesome that you found that.
Yeah. It was rare and it was instant. And so from 8 years old, I started swimming at our regional groups there in Pocatello and then swimming in Twin Falls, Idaho Falls, Boise. And by the time I hit 10, I had made it to regionals up in Seattle and went up there and had won 5 of my 6 events. And then moved on to zones, which is like the western half of the US, and kind of moved around a little bit to be with different coaches. Finally ended up swimming in Idaho Falls for the last little part of my career. And it was my whole life from 8 to 18 years old, which after a while of swimming 2 times a day, 5 days a week, 6 days a week, going to swim meets, going to camps, at one point, it just got a little overwhelming. And right before college, I actually came down and talked to the coach at UNLV saying, hey, I'm thinking about swimming. He's like, well, if you do decide, let me know. By that point, I'd kind of given up on it and went and led kind of a normal life, still came down to UNLV and got a degree and worked for a little bit and did all that and then moved back up to Idaho. And at that point, started swimming a little bit again, dabbled in a couple triathlons up there, just kind of what's called the Bengal Tri, where you swim on the day before on Friday, and then like in a pool, and then they take your time Saturday morning, and then you go and do your bike and your run. It's a great event, a good way to get into it.
Yeah.
So
That is a great way to get started, to split that up and take the transition issue out of it.
Oh yeah,
for
and I mean it's in
T1.
April in Idaho. It's too cold to swim
Oh,
outside.
yeah, great, great.
Yeah, Idaho, I know. So,
Well, the swimming background makes a lot of sense because you're usually one of the first people out of the swim in our club events.
mhm.
That's really pretty awesome. What events did you swim?
So I was mainly a 100 breaststroker. That's one I was probably like best at as far as close to top 25 or so
Wow.
through age group. Also did 100 fly, 100 free, 200 IM, and 400 IM. So
Oh,
Oh,
pretty
so you
hard to
got your
swim
endurance there
breaststroke in
too.
the wetsuit.
the wetsuit was definitely a big change. One, getting it off was way harder than I was expecting it to be, especially with that run up from the water, because
Yeah.
it felt like it was dry by the time I got to that transition. And just trying to get it off like my calves and my feet, I was like, I'm exhausted just doing this.
I, yeah, I
So,
love it. Sorry, Bob, I interrupted you before. What question do you have?
I do have a question, but one of the things I wanted to go back to was the fact that you said swimming was natural for you. Swimming is counterintuitive, and it's not something that humans do well. I mean, that's really rare for somebody to be a natural swimmer. What do you attribute that to, and what was that like?
um, it feels right being in the water, whether
Huh.
it's being balanced, being able to grab it where it's supposed to be, holding my breath. I feel natural in the water. So I could get in, I can swim, and I can maintain a time, whatever it is, for forever. I feel like I can just keep swimming. It could be an hour and a half, 2 hour practice, and just keep going. And there'll be times
Wow.
where I zone out and I'm like, man, how long have I swam? And check my watch, and it's like an extra 700 yards, and you just kind of zone out and go.
Oh gosh, I hate you real bad. To be a natural and to lose track of 700 yards, that's pretty awesome. So, tell me what then, with that kind of background, what made you want to swim and bike and run and do the triathlon and get involved in a tri club?
So even that kind of started back with swimming as age group. Kind of an odd way about it was when I did swim, I'd get random interviews and stuff like that from like the local news station and whatever. And there was one reporter there named Smitty. Um, she would always be the one to come over and interview me. We became friends, and her husband are big into the triathlon group up in Idaho. And I think she's actually part of this group here as well, because she's down in Vegas occasionally. So even when I was younger, they would go and do triathlons like Spudman in Idaho and get me to come and just do the swim leg. And so I would swim and do that way. And then when I'd moved back to Idaho when I was older, she was the one that runs the Bengal Tri. And so for her having that, it was kind of neat and good to support her and getting kind of the student athletes there at ISU involved. So jumped in that way. And then same thing even for this. Talked to her quite a bit about what I was supposed to be doing, as well as some of the other dads at swim practice. Jeff Monroe, with him, his kid swims in my kid's group, and so talked with him quite a bit about triathlons. And it's like, I need something with that competition, and so that's what I wanted. That's how I got into it. So,
Everybody that we talk to on these spotlights has a different reason and a different route to get into triathlon. You're the first person I've ever talked to that was interviewed, like for the local newspaper or the local media, that actually was a triathlete. This is a new avenue. I've never heard that. So we quite novel here.
yeah, she kind of, I know she's always had like the love for the sport and has been doing it literally forever. And even when I started this year, about 2 weeks before the first club event, I messaged her on Facebook saying, hey, I'm doing this. Can I wear my regular wetsuit that I do for like surfing? Like, what am I supposed to do here? What do I wear underneath it? Like, just all this stream of questions now that I have that transition from the swim to the bike. And she's like, no, you have to have like a tri suit. She's like, what size are you? So I tell her, she's like, all right, I'm sending this up to you. So she sent me that. She sent me a bib, some caps, all this information on all the transition stuff, like within 15 minutes of even asking her.
Oh,
Wow,
that's
how
awesome.
cool is that? And that's a good snapshot of the triathlon community. As far as
Absolutely. Everyone I've talked to has been so welcoming and so helping, and just kind of everything that they do, different hints, ways to get suits off, nutrition. It's a constant wealth of information from everyone I talk to. So it's been great.
That's great. So I love it, and I love how you're getting started here, not only from your swim background, because that's really obviously a great strength, but then doing some open water swims even before doing a triathlon. So what was it like doing an open water swim while you were still competing swimming wise? Was that natural then, or was it something you still had to work at?
Um, it wasn't that bad. I mean, other than popping your head up every once in a while to see where you're supposed to be,
Yeah,
the rest of it totally fine.
right.
At one point here, I'm going to have to figure out how to swim as a group, because so far I sprint every single time at the beginning to get out of it, and then I've always had just kind of open water in front of me. I've never had to deal with swimming around people or being kicked or
Yep.
so I think with the try coming up, that'll be an experience since they're starting in waves.
Hmm.
There's going to be some point where I'm swimming in a group of people, so it should be interesting.
Yeah, no, and I'll tell you, I was standing on the shore after you folks have started the race, and I saw you out in front, and I'm like, gee, who is that?
Who is that
So
guy? I know, exactly.
that was really that was great that you came out and obviously really good swim time. So what was your first triathlon then? I know you talked about the one that had the swim on one day, which I love that format. That's something to think about. What was your first race that you put all three together?
Well, it was this year for the first club event, the one
Ah, it was.
in
Okay.
Mhm.
April.
Okay.
Yep.
All
And
right.
yeah, first time in a wetsuit. First time really being in water that cold. That, I mean, I did the
It
club
was cold.
event the week before, I think it was, to get in the
That's
water.
right. That's right. Yeah, I remember that with the Hillary Mouse ran that.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was cold. I mean,
Yeah.
just getting your head in there, it's like getting an ice cream headache.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that part
April's
of it.
cold. So what did you do to prepare for it? Other than, obviously you had the swim background, open water swimming experience. How did you get ready for that first event?
I've been doing a ton of swimming. My kids swim 6 days a week,
Hmm.
so I'm pretty much always at the pool anyway. So it's easy to get that hour and a half workout
Hmm.
in that way. Slowly started riding, bought a road bike because I've always mountain biked before, so I had to get into that. Um, Tried to run, absolutely terrible at it. Didn't do the proper stretching or anything beforehand. Pulled my calf like within a week of the
Oh no.
initial training.
Uh,
So just little things over, getting back into doing any sort of fitness again and all the mistakes you make. So
And they're not mistakes, they're learnings, right? You learn something from every one you made. Yep.
yeah, the running has taken quite a few learning opportunities, but I think I'm finally there to where I'm at least able to run without getting injured anymore. So that's been good.
Well, you know that running difficulty kind of balances out and makes people hate you a little bit less for being such a good swimmer and getting out front. It's like, yeah, just listening to you talk about um, you were out front and you had open water, and it's kind of an issue because you don't know how to swim with a group. It's like there are a lot of people who wish they had that problem.
Yeah, right. See, but
so
then with that, I've never actually passed anyone in the bike or the run part of any of the triathlons. So
yeah,
since I'm out first, I just watch people pass me.
uh,
They pass me constantly on the bike, and then I get to the run, and it's even worse.
Oh,
So
you're not alone in that. Don't worry.
well, you get the engine from the swim fitness, and so I think you're going to see some pretty quick improvements on both the bike and the run. So on that first event, you got out, has to still run quite a ways to get to your bike for the way the lake is right now. Got on the bike. What was the bike ride like?
um, same thing. That first hill just killed me.
Yeah.
Like I didn't think it was going to be that bad, and I was gassed. Like till we made that first turn, and you get that little bit of downhill where you get to just catch your breath for a second, and then I felt better after that. But man, that first hill, I was like, "What have I got myself into? Like there's too many hills for this."
And
So,
there's no blood in your legs when you come out of the water and take that tight wetsuit off.
oh yeah, and just that run up, my legs were dead, so I kind of jogged, like really walked for the most part. And then yeah, it took a little bit for me really to get my legs underneath me and feel comfortable on the bike like I normally do. So
Hmm.
Well,
It's a cool new experience, though.
oh yeah.
And there's no flat. I mean, you don't really get a break on that bike course. It's not an easy course. So you hit the turnaround and did you feel reasonable at that point and feel good, or what was it like when you hit the turnaround on the bike?
I felt better. But like you said, it's a ton of hills. And so for the most part, I've been on the trainer. Haven't really been doing anything like that fast or I guess kind of that long for being on the bike, especially right after the swim. Um, so yeah, fairly tired on that. Once I got to the actual turnaround and got that good downhill for, those mile and a half or so of the
And catch your
downhill,
breath.
felt pretty good. Yeah, exactly. So second
Right.
half felt good.
Yeah, and I
And as
love it.
John brings up, quite often, and it's a really good point. If you train in Vegas, you can race anywhere because, we've got hills, we've got wind, we've got cold water,
A little bit of heat. So,
and a little bit of heat. That's
Yep.
right.
so you hit that turn back down to the beach, and now you're going downhill, and you know that there's no more, no more biking at that point. And you get off your bike. What was that like?
I felt good right after the bike. Transition was quick, got right into my running shoes, got a quick little like the one of the gel shots, had a water bottle with me, started that run. Soon as I got out of the rocks and up that first hill, I'm like, this is miserable. Like we're back to the hill again. I already don't really like running at this point. I was dying.
Yeah,
Well, a lot of walking in that
yeah.
first run. So
That's not an insignificant hill going up there because it's just long and continuous.
oh yeah.
Yeah,
And at
that's
that
fun.
point, I mean, I hadn't really ran that much before since I did. I pulled my calf right off the bat when I started running.
Mm.
Just, I thought I could get into it faster. My body apparently is not what it used to be. And I pulled my calf almost instantly.
Oh
And
no.
so then I relaxed it a little bit, went and ran, pulled it right again. So I
Mm.
tried to stay off as much as possible for most of March through that first little part of April.
Hmm.
And I think I had ran on it maybe once before that event. And
Oh
so it was
boy.
just kind of a push through to finish at that point. So
Oh,
And
that,
did your calf hurt during that race, or was it healed?
for them, it hurt if I ran too much. So I just kind of tried to baby it and
uh,
got through it. So
Cool.
all right, so you're going up the bike hill, out of transition. You're saying, "What did I get myself into?" You're on the run, and you're thinking, going up that hill, and it's just miserable. So you crossed that finish line, and you said, "I got to do this again."
absolutely. You're like, I finished. My time was not great, but I had some good moments in there. I have some
Yeah,
things to work on. Looking forward to the next one. And
yeah,
so,
Yeah, and that's awesome. That is a big accomplishment, though, man.
yeah.
It is.
oh yeah. And I mean, I think a lot of it is just maybe with a lot of triathletes, with a lot of like distance athletes and stuff like that, it's just appreciating the struggle. After the fact, it's type 2 sort of fun where in the time while you're doing it, it's absolutely miserable and you ask yourself over and over again of why am I doing this? And
Mhm.
then after you finish, you're like, that felt awesome. I definitely could have pushed harder here. This is what I like to do. So I like to get to that point of where it doesn't hurt and you feel like you could just continue to go. And I always know it takes a little while to get there. Even in swimming, my first 500 to 700 yards is just that warm up where I never feel great. And then after that, I feel really good for a long time. And the bike's the same and the run's the same. So it's just reminding yourself that push through and it gets better.
There are two really huge things that you just brought up. One was, and it was actually one of the themes of our previous newsletters, is the bigger the challenge, the bigger the reward.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
yeah, you learned that real quick. And then the other thing you learned real quick is the you do the warm up and you pace it, and then that's the endurance athlete end of it. You're not going out sprinting, but it's going to come when you're going to loosen up and smooth out.
Exactly. Yep.
That's a huge learning right there.
Yeah, it's a big mental game. Absolutely.
I'm still trying to learn that.
Yeah. Just keep repeating in your head, it gets better.
Well, and I love how you said, you know, you got to get to where you appreciate the struggle. And I think that's really a great way to think about it, because it does get easier, but it's still a struggle. But you're appreciating that as sort of the fun part of doing triathlon. So what was the second event like now that you had one under your belt? I know it was the aqua bike at that point, and you didn't have to run. What was your mindset going into that?
See, an aqua bike was fantastic.
Yeah.
Didn't have to worry about the run at all. I was still letting my calf and everything heal up, so I wasn't training for running at all.
Yeah.
I was strictly doing biking and swimming, and that was it. So the swim, I took pretty easy, and since that was in July, we didn't have the wetsuit.
Right.
My split, not as quick as what I wanted it to be based on pool times, but I think that just comes as well. The pool time isn't going to be anywhere close to what my open water times is, just with turns and everything else in there. So I need to do some more open water, so I'm more aware of what my split should be.
Hmm.
But I felt good on the swim. I didn't feel super great on the transition run up to the bike, as always. And then
That's
the bike,
tough.
I was like, this is it. So I knew the hill was there. I focused a little bit more on spinning my legs instead of just trying to grind through it in a heavier gear.
How did you learn that? What taught you that?
The spinning.
Yeah.
So I got a Swift for my for Father's Day.
Oh, wow.
And
Nice.
so it
Father's
always
Day.
talks about, spinning your legs, might have your heart rate a little bit higher, but your legs feel more fresh. Whereas if you're low, you tire your legs out, a little bit more knee pain, whatever else. So I was like, oh, I'm going to spin it instead. And it felt a whole lot better. My legs
Yeah.
felt warmer, quicker, and a bigger improvement on that bike time. So
I love hearing the discoveries, and then I love the fact that other people are going to listen to this and learn a lot.
I mean,
just from what, and you've learned it and quickly.
you're the first year so far, I've learned there is a fire hose of information that you can keep on sucking in of all of the stuff, that
Absolutely.
little tips and tricks. And it's like, at first I'm thinking, all right, as far as nutrition, you're just going to go like, I'll have some Gatorade and that'll be all right, and some water. And then you learn about the gels, and then you learn about sodium tablets and everything else. And you're like, all this stuff I never even thought of.
Hmm.
And it's all there. And then trying to decipher what you actually need to do and what works for you, and trial and error.
Do you like that aspect of the sport?
Absolutely.
The mental and the intellectual learning and facts and things that all the tips.
100%. I'm in it all the way, like as far as watching YouTube videos on it, reading articles on it, talking with other people. I love all of that.
Hmm.
So
I love the enthusiasm you bring to this.
well,
That's cool.
So what do you have for the rest of the year now? Do you have any other races that you're targeting, or?
So I'll do Las Vegas Tri next week,
Yep.
and then Pumpkin Man. And Pumpkin Man, I haven't decided yet on sprint or Olympic distance. I'm leaning towards Olympic, but we'll see.
I love it.
Have you ridden up that hill?
Not yet.
Do that.
That might be this weekend.
Oh,
Good.
that's great. Yeah, it's a fabulous race, and in the sprint, 9 of the 12 miles is uphill, so it's a good challenge. So
It's a lot of appreciating the struggle on that one.
yeah, totally. So how are you approaching training now? Obviously, you've got the swimming down, and you know what you need to do to keep your swim fitness. How are you approaching doing the biking and run training?
Probably not as well as I should. It's just, I guess, trying to find that balance between work and the kids' at school and all of their events, and just trying to find the time to get all three in. And I always fall back on swimming because it's easy. I'm at the pool. Biking, sometimes I get bored on the trainer. I hate riding on the road, but the trails right now with all the rains and them being washed out. So I haven't been riding nearly as much as I should,
Yeah.
but I've been running a ridiculous amount, just because I knew that's where my weakest point was. So I've been trying to put in 3 to 5 days a week of running and increasing distances each time and trying to switch that up a little bit. So
Oh, that's cool. Hey, Skylar, I'm curious, of all the things that you've learned in this first year, what has been the most surprising, or what learnings have surprised you this year?
I don't know. I think probably the biggest is how much effort to put into, more if anything, I guess it's more just how much to train and not overdoing it. Remembering to stretch beforehand, or at least warm up a little bit, doing the same thing afterwards, and not getting injured right off the bat, because I definitely want to always push. I'm like, oh, I have a limited time, I want to work out as hard as I can. And the more I read, that's not what I need to do. I need to build up kind of that aerobic capacity first, and then start putting in those bigger training hours. But the biggest thing is just keeping the body kind of nimble, getting those stretches in so that I don't get injured, because coming back from injury, it sets you back so far that it's sometimes mentally hard to come back from that as well. So,
And you're not getting better when you're injured.
yeah, and
You're not improving when you're injured.
But
John's smiling because he's saying, Bob, are you listening to yourself?
I know. We gotta keep beating it down on Bob to get that. So, you mentioned that you swam competitively from like 8 to 18 or longer years old. That's a long time. And a lot of times, getting back into a sport like triathlon, you sort of rediscover some of that love of, in this case, swimming. Have you found that you have rediscovered or still enjoy the swimming, and now that you're doing triathlon?
absolutely. I enjoy like the competition part with the triathlon, and being able to do it kind of on like your own time and be able to sign up. Whereas swimming, I'd like to get into the master's program again and start doing some swim meets here and there.
Hmm.
It's a little bit tougher with trying to be there during the times that masters typically swim, which is early in the morning, which is when I got to get the kids to school. And so I need to talk with Coach Justin, see if I can get some evening times in there instead. So
I love it. So, what are your goals for 2024?
next year I'd like to do a little bit more Olympic distances, and I'd like to get in at least 170.3.
Oh,
I'm not
nice.
sure which one yet, but I would like to do one next year.
Oh, that's a great challenge, and it's neat to explore the different distances because it will be interesting to see which distance you really gravitate towards, and doing the Olympic and the 70.3.
That's, I mean, people have probably heard it 100 times, as far, at least swimmers, on with the triathlon, the swim is so short.
Yeah.
So even with me being fast in the swim, it's going to get me 2 to 3 minutes on most of these guys who might be middle of the pack swimmers, whereas on the bike they have so much time to then pass and go, and then same with the run. So it would be nice to get some longer swims in there, just to gap up a little bit and be able to hold on a little bit longer for those bikes and the runs. So
Well, and then down at Lake Mead, the swimmers also have that run from the water's edge up to transition, and that's just not fair.
yeah. So I need to venture out from Vegas a little bit to see what it's like to just go, from the water to the bike instead of having that extra run in there.
Yeah, that's a great equalizer,
Yeah.
that run.
Oh, I love it. Skylar, this has been great to hear more about how you got into triathlon. I love the swimming background. I love how that's sort of the anchor to your triathlon journey at this point. And getting the bike miles and getting the run miles under you, I think that's you're going to continue to see some improvement, because I even looked at your times in our events, and you're just improving every time in each of those segments. So it's really pretty neat to see, and I think you're going to have a lot of fun as you wrap up this year and go into next year.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Just keep grinding through. And
Yeah.
I'm really impressed with how much you've learned in the first year.
Mhm.
And it's like a lot of people, me speaking for myself, took a long time to learn what you've already learned.
thanks
Quickly.
to YouTube.
But
Everything you need to know is on there. So
Yeah, that's congratulations. You've done really well. I mean, it's for
thanks. I
sure.
really appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, Skylar, thank you again for joining us. Again, welcome to the club again. This year being your first year, and I look forward to seeing you at some of the events the rest of this year.
Yeah, no, thank you guys. The club is absolutely great. Everyone I've met has been incredibly welcoming, and it just kind of makes it easier to get into these events, especially having the club events.
Mhm.
It gets rid of kind of that scarier barrier to entry on jumping into like a larger event like the Las Vegas Tri or Coca-Cola or whatever else.
Mhm.
It's a nice way to learn and get you into it and keep you
Isn't
into
it?
it. So,
Love it.
Very good.
Awesome. I love
Yeah,
that.
thank you again for being on.
yeah, thank you guys.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Later, guys.
Night.